This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you once again by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Jeff Malinoff, and I'm alone once again. This is the last time I'll be alone. Mark will be joining us on Monday, so excited to have him back. But we still have plenty to talk about today. We got UFC 232 happening on Saturday. Jones, Gustafsson, 2. Cyborg and Nunez fighting for the featherweight title. We can get right into that in just a few moments, but also we'll be talking about Week 17. This is a big Week 17. We'll go through every single game, and then we'll see what else we can talk about at the end of the show. But first, let's talk about it. UFC 230T and 230T? What the two? Okay, that made no sense. My mouth just decided not to make words there for a second. Sorry about that. Anyways, 232 is this Saturday. It's not in LA. It's not in Las Vegas. Jeez, I'm soft this morning. It's not in Las Vegas, not at the T-Mobile Arena like it was supposed to be. It's actually in Inglewood at the Forum, which is old school for a type of an A show, really. And that was just because of John Jones' kind of his drug testing has been a little finicky, so they didn't want to risk losing the big fight, the big light heavyweight title fight, since Cormier has decided to just keep his heavyweight title, and so UFC have stripped him of the light heavyweight title, and the I cannot pronounce his name. Alexander Gustafsson and John Jones, number 2, will be for the undisputed light heavyweight title, not the interim light heavyweight title. So that's going to be very fun to watch. And the last time these two faced, of course, was at UFC 165 in 2013, where Jones won by unanimous decision. Now, they were supposed to fight in 2014, but Gustafsson had a torn MCL, I believe, if I'm correct, if I'm not mistaken. And then, of course, John Jones with his multiple arrests and failed drug tests. So, obviously, there was some pushback of all the fights John Jones has had. And so, Jones is finally going to be fighting once again. I believe his last fight, he called out Brock Lesnar and said, like, you want to lose to a guy that's 60 pounds lighter than you or something like that, meet me in the octagon, which is a bold thing to say, of course. But I think what's going to happen first is Cormier versus Lesnar, if Jones and Lesnar ever happens. But we'll see. But I see this fight going. See, I would normally pick Jones in this just because of past records, and like his only loss came from a DQ loss when he did a 12-6 elbow, and Steve Mazzagatti, of course, the official, tried to talk to his opponent who was deaf, and he couldn't respond to him, so he DQ'd Jones for an illegal 12-6 elbow on the ground. And so that's basically John Jones' only defeat. So technically he's never been knocked out, he's never been submitted, he's never been lost by a decision. So he's technically undefeated when it comes to every aspect of how usually fights end up. So who do I see in this fight? Well, if Jones does his classic stick out his fingers and keep the guy at a distance, eye pokes that he's very common doing, especially in the last fight with Cormier, and he did it with Gustafsson in their first fight, I still got to go with Jones on this one. I think See, it's really hard to tell, but I think the striking has to go in John Jones' favor. And, of course, I think he's just overall just a better talent than Gustafsson is. and I think most would agree. But I'm not leaving him out, Gustafsson, that is. I'm just putting into aspects that Jones did win by unanimous decision last time they fought, and I think that's going to be maybe a repeat. I don't see a knockout or maybe a submission by Jones. I mean, Jones has those long limbs, and he can catch Gustafsson if he goes to the ground, takes him to the ground. But honestly, I see this as a fight that's going to stand up. But overall, I'll take Jones winning by decision. Probably unanimous decision if that's the case. But I would love to see a knockout, obviously. I would love to see a submission victory. But usually with Jones's fights, to me, they just usually end in decisions, and he just likes to take the early advantages of the first couple of rounds, and when he knows he's winning the fight, he likes to lean back a little bit and play defense. But that's a lot of fighters too, so put that in consideration. But if I had to make the choice, like I said, I'm going Jon Jones by decision. If I had to pick unanimous or split, I would say unanimous. Split decisions are so rare nowadays that I've seen. I don't remember the last time I remember a title fight that went to a split decision. So, but yeah, this Jones-Gustafsson 2 fight is big, and I'm excited to watch it. But there's also another fight that I'm really looking forward to, and that's the women's featherweight title fight between Cyborg and Nunes. And this is a big fight. Nunes is the bantamweight women's champion right now, and so it's going to be, once again, another champion versus champion fight, just like McGregor won his title, his double title, and how Cormier won his double title as well. This is going to be the third fight that a double champion will be crowned, or possibly be crowned, I guess I could say. If Nunes wins this fight, she will be a double champion, the third one in history. But the last time Cyborg lost a fight was her debut fight, and of course she hasn't lost since. I mean, she's 20-1, and Nunes 16-4. But all of Cyborg's fights end in either a decision or knockout. So no submission advantage for Cyborg. So I give the ground game to Nunes on this one. And I think if Nunes wants to win this fight, she cannot stand up with Cyborg. I think that's I think that's a losing battle. Just Cyborg's just a whole nother beast, and she's a weight class above Nunes, so obviously she has the power advantage. But again, I think Nunes just needs to take her to the ground and work on some jiu-jitsu. But again, this is going to be a very interesting fight. I mean, this is Nunes who, well, I would say she has the knockout to Ronda Rousey, but again, Ronda was not the same as she used to be before that fight. So I won't really say that as an advantage. Of course, we all wanted to see a Rousey versus Cyborg fight, but that, of course, has never happened. Ronda Rousey's now in the WWE as actually the women's champion at the time. The Raw women's champion, to be more specific. But anyways, overall, I would say this Nunes-Cyborg fight is going to be a little more competitive, in my opinion, than Jones and Gustafsson. I just think Jones is a little more hands-offy. Like I said, he likes to leave his fingers out and have the guy get poked in the eye a little bit, which I think is going to be a big factor in that fight, to be honest. But I do like this Cyborg-Nunes fight. But giving it to one or the other, that's a big question, because both are hot right now, just momentum-wise and just overall, pound for pound, they're two of the best women's fighters in the world, obviously. And seeing this fight go one or two ways. Do I see it ending in a decision? Honestly, I do not see it ending in a decision. I either see Nunes possibly submitting Cyborg, like Cyborg takes her to the ground and Nunes catches her with something, like an omoplata or maybe a triangle or maybe even an armbar, who knows? Because Nunes has won by submission. I know, not as often as she wins by knockout, but I don't think Nunes can go toe-to-toe, punch for punch with Cyborg. I don't see it happening, personally. But I think she knows that, and I think she's got to just make sure this goes to the ground, if anything. Because standing up with Cyborg is a whole beast in itself. So, if the fight is on the ground, I'm going to give the advantage to Nunes. But if this fight stays standing up, I'm going to give it to Cyborg. Honestly, if this goes to a decision, it's going to be split in my mind. Like, I don't... it's so hard to tell how a decision's going to go, obviously, because you have to watch the whole fight and see how it goes. But do I see Nunez winning? Absolutely. Do I see Cyborg winning? Absolutely. It's anyone's fight, really. Like I said, I picked John Jones for that fight, but he's faced Gustafsson in the past. He knows what he's in for, and he has the advantage of winning the last fight. And Gustafsson's always been kind of I know he's an amazing fighter. I'm not taking that away from him, but I don't know. Just John Jones is one of those guys that's like once in a lifetime kind of athlete fighter. So I'm going to give that to him. But Cyborg, of course, is one of those athletes as well. It's a freak of nature. But how I see this fight going down, Cyborg, just my prediction at least, Cyborg's going to try to keep this standing up. Nunez is going to keep trying to take her down, or maybe just try to, maybe not, obviously she'll try to take her down, but I think obviously with the power advantage, she will have Cyborg maybe take her down and try to get into a submission and try to slip her into a submission, because obviously there is a height and weight advantage when it comes to Cyborg over Nunez. And this is one of those things in where, I guess there's no height advantage. They're both the same height. But weight goes to Cyborg, and I think that goes with power. And there is a 1 inch advantage for Nunez, but again, I think mainly the strength goes to Cyborg. And she does have a 65% chance to win, which is like, I guess the I'm not sure how that goes. Like, this is off Bing.com, so I'm not sure how is that 65% is going to go. But again, like I said, Nunez is going to try to take Cyborg down, but Cyborg has some dangerous ground and pound. I think that's a huge factor in this. And one of the main traits of Cyborg is her takedown defense. So it's not going to be obviously easy to how would I say this? It's not going to be easy for her to get her on not only get her on the ground, but keep her there and get the advantage Nunez wise over Cyborg. But I will say that based off submission defenses, they're both never been submitted. So that's a big thing. But how overall I will say that Nunez just needs to... I just feel like she's the quicker fighter, obviously. She is the bantamweight champion compared to the featherweight champion. Obviously, there's, like I said, a weight advantage. So Nunez does have I believe, a speed advantage in this. But honestly, when you're looking how they both fight, there is a lot of evenness, if that's a word, in this fight. But this is going to be the fight of the night. Should it be the main event? Probably, but that's going to Jones. But I think Jones is more of a draw, which I understand. It's one of those things in where this fight is going to be looked at just as highly, though. That's how I see it, at least. And when it comes down to it, they're both obviously from Brazil, and there's going to be some similarities in how they train. But people are saying like Chris Cyborg is the best women's fighter in the world right now, and that's very hard to argue based off how you've seen her fight. And like, obviously, I see this going as if Cyborg gets in a couple shots, just like in the early going through her, goes through Manny Nunez's strike defense, this might be over in the first round. But I will also say this fight can go the distance. But again, it's one of those things where Cyborg can end this fight at any time. So if I had to pick between Cyborg or Nunez, I think I got to go with Cyborg on this one. I think she just has the power advantage, and I think that's going to be the biggest picture in the long run. And I think that is what's going to make a difference is like I said, the power. Like, Cyborg she can knock out anybody. And Nunez has just got to stay away from those punches because she can put on a barrage, she could turn on a ground and pound, Cyborg that is, and just make it almost impossible for Nunez to recover. But again, Nunez is the bantamweight champion for a reason. So she can make history by being the third double champion. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be at the Forum, like I said. They had to change locations. Maybe, I don't know if that will throw anyone off. Like, I guess they did it a little early because actually, they're still kind of selling tickets. StubHub is still saying their tickets at T-Mobile Arena. So obviously this was changed like last minute-ish. But I don't think it's going to make it that much of a difference. But I'm really looking forward to it. I know you are all too. And you're all, if you can't afford the pay-per-view, which probably you're going to a bar or something and watching your Buffalo Wild Wings, probably going to have some, you're probably going to read about it. But speaking of reading, as I slyly have a piece of paper, what would it be like if we all listened more? Listening to audiobooks inspires us, motivates us, even brings us closer. There's no better place to listen than Audible. Audible has the largest selection of audiobooks on the planet, and now Audible members get more than ever before. Each month, they get 3 titles of their choice. 1 audiobook, 2 Audible originals, and fitness programs they can't get anywhere else. There's never been a better time to experience Audible. Try it free for 30 days by visiting audible.com/GSMCbook or by texting the code GSMCbook to 500500. Remember, if you want this awesome 30-day trial, visit audible.com/GSMCbook or texting the code GSMCbook to 500500.
What happens to your decision-making when you drink? Well, after one drink, you feel confident. A few more, and calling your ex at 1 a.m. seems like a great idea. And you're pretty sure the secret to a great taco is 4-day-old macaroni. The bottom line, drunk you doesn't make great decisions. So you're risking a DUI or worse if you count on him to get you home. Plan before you party. Get home safe. Brought to you by Washington.
Welcome back, everyone, to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We just finished talking about UFC 232 that's happening this week, and now we got the final week of the NFL season. Week 17 is upon us, and usually we have games on a Saturday, but we have all the games on Sunday. Every game is on Sunday, so that's exciting. But, let's just do this in order, shall we? We'll do it the early morning Pacific time games, and then we'll go through there. I believe all of them are division games, if I'm not mistaken, and they are, which is pretty important, all things considered, when you come to certain games. But let's go games that really don't really have meaning, and then go to ones that have more meaning. Cowboys and Giants, for example. Cowboys already clinched the division, and the Giants are already out. So there's not really much to talk about when it comes to this game. The Giants are 6-point favorites, but I think that's because it's in New York. And since the Cowboys have nothing to play for, I will say that the Giants do have a chance of winning. But honestly, if the Giants win, that really hurts their draft slot. I know they're not in the top 5 or anything like that. They're 5-10. But I would rather have my team go 5-11 than go 6-10 and drop a couple playoff spots. But again, it's Cowboys-Giants, big rivalry game. And it's in New York, so I'll give the edge to the Giants on this one. I won't say any prediction of the scores because Mark's not here, and it's just not as interesting. So I'll just give the edge to the Giants on this one. Another game with really no meaning since both are out of the playoffs, Dolphins and Bills, but it's in Buffalo, so the Buffalo is 4.5-point favorites. So I will give the edge to Buffalo because the Dolphins are going to be moving on from Ryan Tannehill. Like, that's almost like a foregone conclusion. Because the reason for that is because look at Ryan Tannehill's, how do I say this? Look at Ryan Tannehill's resume, I guess you can say. Not a handful of playoff spots. And I don't know, he just seems like he just isn't the guy they thought he was going to be coming out of college. And it's not, I wouldn't say a shame, but I would say it's a lot of years wasted on Ryan Tannehill. And that's not disrespect to Ryan Tannehill. I'm just saying if I'm part of the Dolphins organization, you've been so patient with the guy, I think it is the right time to move on. It's the proper time to move on is now. Maybe it should have been a couple of years ago, but I would say it's better late than never, you know? So I would definitely look at that. And also, Buffalo is in a major rebuilding period. They have been for quite some time. They have their quarterback in Josh Allen, and they just need to build a team around him, basically, which is, I think it's going to come sooner rather than later, to be honest with you. And so that's how I see it, at least. And also, just these couple of teams are just, like I said, rebuilding. So it's gonna take a little bit longer than most, definitely, for these two teams to get back into the playoffs. But hey, the Bills made it in the playoffs first time this millennium last season, so that's something to think about. Then we got the Falcons and Buccaneers. Again, a game with no meaning except for draft spots. The main question is, are the Buccaneers going to stick with Jameis Winston? Are they going to move on from Jameis Winston and find someone in the draft or free agency? Because of Herbert and Oregon's number one prospect quarterback not being in the draft, would that affect the Buccaneers from selecting quarterback? And I think that's going to be a serious concern if I'm the Buccaneers. Is this one of those, like, we got to tank next season also to go after Herbert or go after another quarterback because there's more of a draft, maybe more of a, I don't know what the word is, maybe a more generous or more, what's the word I'm looking for, a more attractive quarterback draft class than there is this year. I mean, there's not really many to go on, to be honest with you. And I think the main thing is I think for the Buccaneers, they should really look at defense and pick up, because this is a defensive class. I've said this thousands upon thousands of times on these podcasts, and so that's how that's going to go. And how I see this going for both teams, though, this game, I think I'll just give it to the Falcons, just because I think they're just a better team overall. And I know that's not saying a lot, because both teams' seasons have been incredibly disappointing. I mean, you look at the Buccaneers, and you see the fact that they start off so great, beating New Orleans in Week 1, and then they looked like, and Ryan Fitzpatrick looked like NBA All-Star, looked like a Pro Bowler and looked like MVP candidate type stuff, and then they just drop off the face of the earth. And then you also look at the Falcons. They had a Super Bowl recently, and they almost had it, but they, 28-3 really speaks for itself, unfortunately. And when you look at that, obviously this was a very disappointing season, but, whatever. But both teams are looking to rebuild. Maybe not rebuild, but, obviously rebuild, what am I saying? But obviously they're going to have to look at offensively they need to. Actually, defensively it's the Falcons they need to improve, but offensively it's the Buccaneers they need to. Honestly, Buccaneers just need a lot of work. And both these teams, it's going to take a couple of years for the Falcons to get back to the Super Bowl, and the Buccaneers, it's going to take even longer to get back to the playoffs. So that's just... And then we got the Texans and Jaguars, which is actually a game with consequences. When I mean consequences, the Texans are fighting for that first-round bye, and they need a little help, though. Texans need to win this one, and the Patriots need to lose for them to get that first-round bye. And how I see this playing out, obviously I see them playing their starters, the Texans, that is. And I don't know. I can see the Jets upsetting New England. I see that because of the fact that the Patriots aren't the same team they used to be. I really don't see it at all. The Patriots still can have a chance of the AFC's number 1 overall seed. That's true. But they need to win, and they need the Chiefs and Chargers to lose. But they can clinch still with the first round bye with just a victory. Or losses by the Ravens, Texans, and Titans if they lose. So they need a lot of help if they lose this game to get a first round bye. But I think they can handle the Jets. But I say both the Texans and the Patriots are going to win this game. I see Patriots getting that second place seed and that first round bye. But if I see either of these teams losing, if one of these teams is going to lose between the Texans facing the Jaguars and the Patriots facing the Jets, I'm going to go the Jets upsetting the Patriots. Like I said, I feel like the Texans are a better team than the Patriots. I said it. What are you going to do about it? Nothing, because I'm talking on a podcast and you're listening to it. So thank you for listening, by the way. I really appreciate you all listening. Anyways, moving on. Obviously, I had the Patriots and Texans both winning their games because they're both playing at home also, which is a major factor. It's going to be at Houston. It's going to be at Foxborough. So that's a huge addition to these two teams winning. I see both teams winning. I see them keeping their playoff positioning the same. Nothing's really changing there unless the Jets come with a miracle. But the Texans, if they lose, they still keep their spot. So nothing really major. As for Lions and Packers, 6-8-1 Packers, 5-10 Lions. Obviously, neither of them are going to the playoffs. This is mainly for positioning now in the draft. And how the Packers played against the Jets, I'm going to go Packers over Lions because Aaron Rodgers just likes to play randomly very good. So just give me that advantage to the Packers over the Lions. Nothing much really to say anymore about that. And then we have the Panthers and Saints. Saints trying to end the season 14-2, and the Panthers are on a 7-game skid. Give me the Saints any day of the week. Man, poor Panthers though. I mean, 6-2, looked like a serious Super Bowl contender, and then just I don't know what to say. It's really a disappointing. It's a lost season for the Panthers. But I obviously see the Saints taking this 14-2, first seed, best record in the NFL. I see it totally being a possibility. Well, possibility. It's got to happen. As for the Bears, they can take a first-round bye with a victory over Minnesota and with a loss by Los Angeles Rams. With the Rams facing the 49ers, though, the Rams could end this 13-3 season, which they most likely will against the 49ers. This is in LA also, which is a huge factor. They are 10-point favorites against the 49ers, who are playing for nothing. And honestly, if you're a 49er fan, you want them to lose just for draft positioning, because if they lose, they get at least the second overall pick in the draft. And then you want the Cardinals to beat the Seahawks which if the Seahawks lose, they will be officially the first overall pick in the draft. So that would be good for them. Obviously, Seahawks over Cardinals and Rams over 49ers are my predictions for those NFC West games. But going back to the Bears and Vikings, I see the Bears taking it. I know the Vikings are fighting still for a playoff spot. They still have the last possible spot in the NFC at the moment. But they have not officially clinched. But I believe if they lose this game, the Vikings do, they need the Philadelphia Eagles to lose themselves against the Redskins. But Eagles win, Vikings in the playoffs. But these are the two games that are probably the most crucial out of any of the other spots because one team can lose their playoff spot, another can gain it. One could get a first-round bye, the other can lose it. Well, no, not the other can lose it, but the Rams can lose it. So that's how there's a lot of writing on the line in these two games, especially for Eagles and basically the Bears, Vikings, and Eagles are all playing for something. Bears are playing for the first round bye. Vikings are playing just to stay alive in the playoffs. And the Eagles are looking to pull off a Nick Foles miracle again because apparently that's just what he does. That's just that's his thing now. And like I said yesterday, if the Eagles do win and the Vikings lose and they take that playoff positioning from Minnesota, the question remains, do you get rid of Nick Foles? Carson Wentz, excuse me. Do you trade off Carson Wentz and make Nick Foles your guy? I think that's a serious question they need to consider if they make the playoffs this season. Because they can make a run in the playoffs. I'm not saying it's impossible. Obviously, momentum is huge when it comes to playoffs, and they will have a lot of momentum going in. They'll be on a winning streak, and they'll be making the playoffs, and they'll be feeling good about themselves. Let's see if we can repeat as champions. Yes, if you remember correctly, the Eagles did win the Super Bowl last year against the New England Patriots. I know it's hard to believe, but, that's how the cookie crumbles. But, again, I wouldn't read too much into it. And, again, a perfect segue to talk about Audible, because we will talk about the other games right after this. But first, let me talk to you about Audible. Listening to audiobooks inspires us, motivates us, and even brings us closer. And there's no better place to listen than Audible. Audible has the largest selection of audiobooks on the planet, and now Audible members get more than ever before. Each month, they get 3 titles of their choice. 1 audiobook, 2 Audible originals, and fitness programs they can't get anywhere else. There's never been a better time to experience Audible. Try it free for 30 days by visiting audible.com/GSMCbook or texting the code GSMCbook to 500-500. Once again, if you want to get this 30-day trial from Audible, go to audible.com/GSMCbook or text the code GSMCbook to 500-500.
What happens to your decision-making when you drink? Well, after one drink, you feel confident. A few more, and calling your ex at 1 a.m. seems like a great idea. And you're pretty sure the secret to a great taco is 4-day-old macaroni. The bottom line, drunk you doesn't make great decisions. So you're risking a DUI or worse if you count on him to get you home. Plan before you party. Get home safe. Brought to
Welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We are talking about Week 17 of the NFL season. We are on the final week. The final amount of games before the playoffs. And playoffs means Super Bowl, and Super Bowl means champions, and then champions means everyone else gets to look forward to next season, and then it's the off season, and then it's the NFL draft for those teams that didn't make the playoffs, and then it's the first overall draft pick, and that means it's close to the preseason, and then preseason means the regular season, and we're back full circle. Anyways, we talked about NFC West teams, we talked about some other games that have a lot riding on them. Let's talk about more games that have some riding on them, shall we? We just finished talking about the Bears and Vikings as well. Now, let's go to Chargers and Broncos and Raiders and Chiefs, AFC West. Now, if Los Angeles Chargers win and Kansas City loses to the Oakland Raiders, then I almost said it. I stopped myself, though. Then Los Angeles Chargers will be getting the top seed in the NFL AFC Division playoffs, which means that we will have 2 LA teams with first-round byes if Rams and Chargers win. And I say that because not too long ago, let's say 2014, there was no LA teams in the NFL, period. Fast forward 4 years. We could see 2 LA teams battle it out in the Super Bowl. Can you believe that? I can't. But you can not either. But it is a possibility. And if it ever comes to that, which it very well could, Phillip Rivers versus Jared Goff, Melvin Gordon versus Todd Gurley, Keenan Allen versus Brandon Cooks, Aaron Donald versus Melvin Gordon. No, wait, I already said Melvin Gordon. Melvin Ingram, excuse me. Yeah, that makes sense. Yes. That might be a pretty good game, honestly. But, again, for them to both have first-round byes, LA Rams need to win, LA Chargers need to win, but the Rams they win and they get the bye. Chargers need the Chiefs to lose. So, let's go. Will they win, though? Chiefs do play the Raiders, and the Chargers play the Broncos. Broncos just got their butts handed to them by the Raiders on Monday night. So, obviously, it's in favor of LA. It is in Denver, however. And Oakland is playing in Kansas City. So, the question remains, since they lost Keenan Allen, are the Chiefs the same team? And I answer with no. I answer with no because how they've been playing the last couple of weeks have not been the same team that have been playing the first, let's say, 13 weeks. Or whenever Kareem Hunt got cut from the team due to those domestic abuse charges. I guess it wasn't really domestic abuse. It was just assault, wasn't it? Assault to a woman assault? I forget where the actual saying of the law would go in that situation. Domestic, I would believe, has to be a relationship, but I could be wrong. But I will say that the Chiefs are probably going to keep the first seed, with the Chargers having to play away against a team that's 9-7, like Baltimore, as they are projected to go now. There are no Monday night games, so I'm just going to keep going, because we also have the Colts and Titans playing on Sunday night. The last Sunday night football primetime game is Colts and Titans. Both are 9-6. So this game is probably the one that is gonna. How do I explain this? This game between the Colts and Titans is whoever wins is in, because they're both 9-6. So if Indianapolis wins, they keep their playoff spot, their 6th seed, 10-6 in the playoffs. Tennessee wins, they take 10-6, enter 6th seed of the playoffs. And I love games like this. Win and in. All about who's better at the end of the seaon. Week 17, what team is healthy? What team is able to continue this run? Derrick Henry is playing great. Marlon Mack has been playing great. Both running backs are pretty even when it comes to momentum. Well, I would say Derrick Henry has the most momentum compared, but I would say both are equal in talent. Andrew Luck versus Marcus Mariota or possibly Blaine Gabbert. Got to give the edge to Andrew Luck on both of them because Andrew Luck is probably going to get comeback player of the year just based on how well he's been playing. And any other season, you can say he's up for MVP, but with Patrick Mahomes only 2 touchdowns away from 50, and Drew Brees arguably playing the best season of his life, and he's had a record-breaking most passing yards in one season, you can tell that it's between those two. So I'm going to give the edge to Indianapolis on this one. I think they're just a more complete team. I would pick T.Y. Hilton over any receiver on the Titans. I pick Andrew Luck over Marcus Mariota any day of the week. I might, at this moment in time, pick Derrick Henry over Marlon Mack, but I'm not. I would not be upset having Marlon Mack on my team. Marlon Mack is becoming one of the better running backs in the NFL. And so I think, and the Colts defense is no slouch either. They have a very good defensive core that can get the job done. Titans, however, they've proven they can get the job done defensively, but there's still some holes in that team, both offensively and defensively. So, I know it's in Tennessee, if I'm reading this correctly, which it is. Colts are 3.5-point favorites going into this game against Tennessee. I got to go Indianapolis on this one. This is probably the most crucial game out of every of the others. And I say crucial just because they have immediate effect. They don't need other teams to lose or win. This game right there immediately affects both teams, which is nice because the rest of the games, it's like they have to win and this team has to lose. Like the Browns, if they were still in the playoff hunt, they would need this game, the Titans and the Colts, to tie. They couldn't afford one of them winning or the other. The Titans and Colts needed to tie in order for the Browns to be in the playoffs if they were still alive. But I'm taking nothing away from the Cleveland Browns. I honestly think this team could be a serious playoff contender by next season. Honestly, without a couple missed field goals in the beginning of the season, this team could be 10-11 wins, maybe even first in the AFC. I know that's crazy to say, but you take away some costly missed field goals and sink them. They beat the Saints, and I think that game alone puts them in a playoff spot. But take away 3 or 4 games that the field goal kicker blew it for them, then they have 10-11 wins. That's just how I see it, at least. Speaking of Browns, they do play the Ravens, who have not officially sealed their spot yet in the playoffs. The AFC is still... what's the word I'm looking for? The AFC is still open because the Steelers can still take that spot from them. Or, well, technically, if it went like this, it would be 10-6, whoever between the Colts and the Titans, and they would take the 4th seed, while the Pittsburgh, I almost said Penguins, the Pittsburgh Steelers would take the 6th seed. But they need Baltimore to lose. So Baltimore losing and Pittsburgh winning puts them ahead. I believe that's right. And with that, I say I don't see Pittsburgh getting in. I know they're playing the Bengals, a very weak team. And the Ravens are playing the Browns, who are a very talented team. But I just see the Ravens holding on to beat the Browns, and I see that affecting the Steelers, of course. and the Steelers out of the playoffs. Which means I think them not making the playoffs is bittersweet for them because, one, they get a high draft pick, better than they usually would have, and two, it would be in the accepting period of it's time to rebuild. That's just how that goes. There's only 3 teams that are outside looking in right now of the playoffs that still have a chance to make it. Like I said, Tennessee Titans are on the outside looking in at the moment. Pittsburgh is outside looking in. And the Philadelphia Eagles are outside looking in. 3 playoff spots remain. We have a couple first-round byes still at stake here. So if New England loses and Houston wins, they take the 2nd seed. With Chiefs losing and Chargers winning, they take the 1st seed. And the reason the Chiefs are ahead is because it's based on division record. Chiefs are 4-1 to the Chargers 3-2. And Patriots are ahead of the Texans because the Patriots beat the Texans this season, and it's just based on head-to-head record. So, yes. There's been a couple things set in stone, but not everything. And this is my prediction on how the playoff picture is going to be officially after this Sunday. In the NFC, we already know who's going to be the top seeds. But this is how I can see it. 1, New Orleans. 2, LA. 3, Chicago. 4, Cowboys. 5, Seahawks. 6, Eagles. Yes, I do see the Eagles jumping over the Minnesota Vikings because the Bears want to win that game to at least have an opportunity to get a first-round bye. And so I'm going to go with the Eagles beating the weaker Redskins team and the Minnesota Vikings losing their shot at the playoffs, losing to the Chicago Bears. Yes, I know that. That's how I see it. And as the AFC, I'm going to go out on a limb here. Los Angeles Chargers at number 1. Houston Texans at number 2. Yes, I see both 1 and 2 seeds changing this week. 3 would be New England. 4, I believe, will still be Baltimore. 5 will be Kansas City, and 6 will be Indianapolis. So that's how I see it. I see the 1 and 2 seeds in the AFC changing, and I see the 1 and 2 seeds in the NFC staying the same. But you can disagree with me. I understand if you do. Free country. Get that. But that is my predictions for Week 17. Do you agree with me? You can tweet me at Jeff Malinoff. You can Instagram me at Jeff Malinoff if you want. Whatever. But we are going to take another short break. When we come back, we'll take a little brief look at the NBA and then call it a day. How's that? Sound good? All right. We'll be right back right after this.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome to the final segment of the GSMC Sports Podcast. We talked about UFC 232. We've talked about Week 17 matchups and playoff scenarios. Now, let's go on to the NBA, where we had some buzzer beaters yesterday. And yesterday, we had two. The Portland Trailblazers were down. We're actually ahead quite a bit going into the game against the Warriors with... Well, it was basically Seth Curry versus Steph Curry. Seth Curry had 11 points, 3 rebounds, and his brother, Stephen Curry, had 29 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. But Kevin Durant with the triple-double, 26, 10, and 11, and he helped the team go to overtime against the Trailblazers. But Damian Lillard hit a kind of a dagger at the end of overtime with 5 seconds left, giving the Blazers the win, 110-109. But that was not the only game that ended in a 1-point victory, as the LeBron-less Lakers faced the Sacramento Kings at the Golden One Center in Sacramento, with Bogdan Bogdanovic hitting a game-winning 3 at the buzzer to put them ahead 117-116. The Kings were down 15 points at one point in the second half. They came roaring back, outscored the Lakers 33-21 in the fourth quarter to win this game. And people are saying, yes, without LeBron, the Kings won. But the Kings may be the real deal, people. I really believe that. And so that's just how that goes. And obviously the Lakers, without LeBron, it hurts. And Rondo might be out for a little bit longer than expected. Yes, that's going to hurt. But I think they're fine. Lakers are still going to be a playoff team. Kings might be a playoff team, but I'm thinking 8-7 seed at best. And as for the Warriors, I don't think anyone should be worrying. Like, everyone's like, oh, Draymond Green and Kevin Durant can't get along. History lesson. Kobe and Shaq didn't get along. They three-peated. They had trouble. Everyone was thinking maybe they wouldn't be the best team in the NBA in 2002. Everyone's like, oh, it's going to be the end of an era type thing after that. They won the championship that year. So will history repeat itself, but with the Warriors and Draymond Green versus Kevin Durant? Probably. But like I said, there are some aspects of like, oh, there's a rivalry involved in the team. It's Civil War style. Well, that's happened before, and the team still wins a championship. That was the outcome of the previous Civil War between Kobe and Shaq. So just letting you guys know that nothing's really changing, unfortunately, if you're not a Warriors fan. As for the other games, Rockets and Celtics, it was Kyrie versus Harden, as Kyrie had a 23-11 double-double, and Harden had a 45-point game, another back-to-back 40-point game, with him shooting 18 threes, 50% from the three, shot 17 free throws, 14 of 17 from the line. Gave him that 45 points as the Rockets take over and defeat the Celtics 127-113. And this just shows a lot of, I would say, a preview of things to come when it comes to the Western and Eastern Conferences facing off in the finals. If just this, I don't see them two facing them. I just see this how that's got to happen. And just to look at the other games, Bucks destroy the Knicks 112-96. I would maybe not destroy is a strong word, but Giannis again at double-double, 31 points, 14 rebounds, 8 assists. I see him as still the MVP of the season. And the Knicks are just being the Knicks. I can't really explain it other than that. And looking at the standings after yesterday's games, Milwaukee's on a 2-game winning streak. Indiana's on a 3-game winning streak. Denver takes over as the 1 seed. Back at number 1. Even with their 2-game losing streak, Golden State has been on a 2-game losing streak. Losing to LA and then losing here to Portland. So Denver at 21-11 are back on top of the Western Division, and the Warriors at 23-13 are at number 2. The top 3 teams in the Western Conference have lost 2 in a row. All 3. That's Denver, Golden State, and Oklahoma City. As for Houston, they've won 3 straight and are itching their way back up to the top of the Western Conference. Portland is a little bit ahead of them. Both LA teams are ahead of both of those teams. So basically, I'm just going to read off again who's in the seeding for the West. 1, Denver. 2, Golden State. 3, Oklahoma City. 4, LA Clippers. 5, LA Lakers. Yes, the Clippers are ahead of the Lakers. We are not in an alternate universe. We are in, well, if you were a comic book nerd, you would think this is like Universe 9 or 8 based off DC comics. I think it's Universe 8. Are we Universe 8? Yeah, something like that. Anyways, getting off topic. As was it? Denver 1, Golden State 2, Oklahoma 3, LA Clippers 4, LA Lakers 5. 6 is Portland, 7 is Houston, and 8 is Sacramento. So that is the Western Conference. As for the East, nothing really has changed. 1, Toronto, 2, Milwaukee, 3, Indiana, 4, Philadelphia, 5, Boston, 6, Detroit, 7, Charlotte, and 8, Miami. As for the Knicks, since they've lost 6 straight now. And below them is Cleveland, who has lost 4 straight. And it used to be the Phoenix Suns in the worst record in the NBA, but now that belongs to Cleveland Cavaliers. So congratulations, Cleveland! Yay, you have the worst record in the NBA. Pretty rough going from the NBA Finals and LeBron James to no LeBron James, and once again becoming the worst team in the NBA. This is now the second time in history that's happened to you guys, so that's pretty rough. But at least it wasn't as bad as like the decision announcement. Could have been a lot worse. Could have been a decision 2 or something like that. Anyways, thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We're going to call it a day here. Please tune into the later podcast today for fantasy football and football. And I am Jeff Allen. Mark Souza will be here on Monday, and we will see you then. Have a good day, everybody, and enjoy your weekend.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.